Hey everybody, welcome back to Reviews in Random. Today we are reviewing this blood flow restriction set by Fitcuffs. This is their complete set that comes with the hard case for everything. It comes with the bands for the uppers, which are these guys here, the lowers. It comes with this device, which is a Bluetooth device to measure your limb occlusion pressure. We will talk about that and why it's important here in a second. And then also it comes with the hand pump to accurately pump up your bands once you figure out your limb occlusion pressure. So that gives you the gauge right there. So all of this comes in a nice carrying case together. So just it's something I don't really talk about a lot on this channel is my day job. This is not my day job. My day job is I'm an advanced practice nurse that specializes in anesthesia. I'm a nurse anesthetist. So a great deal of my time is spent evaluating medical research to make evidence-based changes to the way that I practice anesthesia. So when I finally decided to take control of my fitness, I literally spent hundreds of hours studying medical literature to find the best way to do it, the sustainable way to do it, and honestly, guys, the quickest way to do it. So yeah, I know, I want to cheat. So from time to time, my buddies that know that I'm into fitness and know that I have access to medical literature will ask me questions to see if I've come across any research pertaining to different aspects that they've seen or that they're interested in. And blood flow restriction was one of them. I had a buddy come and ask me about it. And I told him, honestly, the only thing I really knew about blood flow restriction at that time was that they've used it in rehab for years. I didn't really know anything about it in the healthy population or specifically related to muscle growth, but I told him I'd do some research. Fast forward a few months now, guys, and I am all in with BFR. There are hundreds of articles written on the positive effects of blood flow restriction in healthy individuals related to muscle growth. And what every single one of those studies shows is that you can use less resistance or less weight and achieve the same muscle growth as you could with really heavy weights. So that's huge, especially for somebody like my wife who's very athletic, but recently had a C-section. She's not going to be throwing around heavy weights for a while. Or somebody like me who has not been the most fit their entire life, but I really want to reduce the impact on my joints moving forward to make sure that I don't have problems later on down the road. So doing some cycles of low resistance training can really help to improve your joint and tendon health. And with BFR, you don't have to sacrifice muscle growth to do it. So on top of it, there's other benefits like improved immune function. So when I started down this rabbit hole, I wanted to get some more information. I came across Dr. Mario Novo, who's like one of the world's leading experts on BFR and an awesome guy, by the way. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, do it. He's a great guy. And he told me specifically to look at Fitcuffs as one of the brands to look at because he really liked the ability, this thing here, the ability to accurately assess your limb occlusion pressure. It's extraordinarily important. So I spent a few weeks looking at dozens of different brands of bands and comparing them with certain key aspects that I learned from the studies that I read. We'll talk about some of those. And I finally settled on Fitcuffs, and I could talk literally for hours on the information that I've compiled. I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is link to Dr. Mario's, some of the interviews he's done with other people on YouTube. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel, so I'll just throw those links down there so you can kind of hear him explain BFR. And if you've got questions, feel free to ask me. I'll see if I can link to literature if that would be helpful for you. But I'm not really doing this review to try to convince you to use BFR. I figure if you've come this far and you're looking for reviews for Fitcuffs, that you've probably already decided to use BFR. I want to kind of explain my process when I was shopping of why I chose Fitcuffs over all of those other brands after all of my comparison shopping. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we actually get into the review, I want to point out to you guys that I am not an affiliate. I do not get money if you buy these bands. They were not given to me. I paid my own money for them, and I am not paid to do a review. I do this because I like these products. So at the time of this recording, I'm not an affiliate. I would like the Fitcuffs people to reach out to me because I would love to become an affiliate. But for the time being, guys, when I'm writing this review, I have no vested interest on whether or not you buy these bands or not. And to be honest, I'm going to keep it that way. I joke about becoming an affiliate. I've never been an affiliate for any one of the products that I've reviewed because I really do feel that it's important to kind of step aside and not actually give any sort of bias towards my reviews. All right, that being said, I'm going to go through a quick overview of what I want to cover in this review because these are the important aspects to me when I was comparison shopping. I want the ability to assess limb occlusion pressure. I want the ability to accurately set and maintain that pressure. I need something that's comfortable, durable, and versatile. So let's go ahead and start with the ability to assess limb occlusion pressure. That's what this little guy is, this little Bluetooth thing. So both the safety and the efficacy of BFR bands are 100% dependent on the ability to accurately assess the limb occlusion pressure. So this is too low of pressure and you're not going to see results, and too high you could actually damage the vasculature and the nerves, particularly in the arm. That's a really bad thing because they're pretty superficial. So if you crank down the pressure too high and create damage to that, it affects the way that your hand moves because those nerves run along all the way down to your fingertips. So the idea with BFR is you want to occlude the venous return, or the blood flowing away from the cells to the heart, but maintain the arterial flow, so the blood from the heart to the cells. So to do that, the vast majority of the bands out there require you to buy a Doppler so that you can listen to. The Doppler is basically just a microphone you put on your artery, you pump up the cuff, and as you're pumping up the cuff, you listen to the pulse through the microphone, through the Doppler, get smaller and smaller, fainter and fainter until it goes away, and you know that that's your arterial or your limb occlusion pressure. The problem is that that's really hard to do by yourself because normally you have to use your radial artery right here. So you're trying to pump here while holding the Doppler here, and you got to keep it steady, and then you can affect it with the way that you pump as well. So you really need to have another person to do it accurately. The other thing is that limb occlusion pressure will change as your muscles grow. So you need to assess that fairly frequently, every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how often you train. So there's really very few BFR brands out there that come with a good, easy way to assess the limb occlusion pressure. But that is a huge must and absolute when you're trying to be safe and effective with blood flow restriction. So one of them was Fitcuffs. The other one that I really liked that I thought was super cool is called Fitcuffs BFR. You guys can check them out. And they're awesome because it's all the high-tech stuff. Anybody who follows my channel knows I love the high-tech stuff. But everything is built into it. So it's the cuff, and then inside the cuff is the pump and a Bluetooth device with a battery that links to your phone. The phone senses the limb occlusion pressure, and the pump sets the pressure correctly. Super cool. The problem is that one, they were $150 more per set than these Fitcuffs. Also, they had a small and a large size, which means that I would have had to buy a different set for myself and my wife. So now we're, $1,000, $1,200 into it. And if any part of that system fails, you now have a $600 paperweight. You can have the battery go out, the pump go out, you can have the Bluetooth receiver go out, or sender go out, and now you've got nothing. You got a $600 paperweight. So what I liked about this is that all of these parts are individual, and they're individually replaceable. So if something does happen to break, I'm not out hundreds of dollars. I can spend $50, $60, I can't remember what these cost, but it's not that expensive, and buy a new one. So the other brands, the Air bands, were more flashy, which I thought was cool, but they ultimately didn't provide better results, and they weren't as versatile, and they were more expensive. So, but regardless of which brand you get, make sure you have a way to accurately assess your limb occlusion pressure, whether it's an easy way like this Bluetooth device or whether it's using a Doppler. You absolutely have to do that. I liked, for the price, this costs less than buying a Doppler. Those Dopplers can be well over $100. So I liked something super simple like this. All right, so to use this device to actually measure your limb occlusion pressure, what you're going to do is you're going to turn it on just by pushing that button there. You're going to click it right in here just like that. You can click this one right in here. Now you're going to put this cuff as far up as you possibly can. And you're going to open the app. It is called Air BP. Looks just like that. Focus. Air BP. You're going to click that. It's going to, let me see if it comes up with the, so it says right there, it's searching for the device. You'll have to click on that the first time you use it. After that, it automatically does just like this. Now, I would recommend pumping this up with a different hand than the cuff is on. That way, so my cuff is on my left hand right now. I'm not going to be pumping this with my left hand because that's going to change the way the reading. Also, keep in mind that these blood pressure, or these cuffs, are different than a standard blood pressure cuff. So the smaller the cuff is for your arm, the higher your blood pressure is going to read. So do not panic when this comes back higher than what your normal systolic blood pressure is. So in this situation, the systolic blood pressure is the limb occlusion pressure. So that's what you're looking for. But again, don't panic when it's higher than you would think that it normally is. You're going to make sure that this is all the way turned, that valve is turned all the way this way, tighten down so that it can actually inflate. And you're going to start pumping until it tells you not to, which will be just over 200.
Stop pumping.
And you're just going to let it do its thing. Also keep in mind I'm talking, which you shouldn't, and I'm standing, which you shouldn't. So it tells me to pump again. I'm going to go up again.
Stop pumping.
So you should be taking this while you're sitting, while you're still, and while you're relaxed, and none of those are happening now, so I expect this is going to be sky high, but let's find out. Oh, it didn't work. All right, maybe I got to... So I'm going to deflate it, and I'm going to try to do it right this time. So we're going to restart. I'm going to set this down just like that. I'm going to sit down back here, and I'm going to go through the same exact process.
Stop pumping.
All right, so it measured my systolic at 165 over 114, which is way high. My normal, sorry, that's the whole blood pressure, but systolic of 165. My normal systolic is like 130 or 135, so a little bit elevated, but not stroke range, which we're getting into, especially with that diastolic. So don't panic too much when it comes up really high. It's measuring something different than your actual blood pressure. It's just using a blood pressure device to find it. So you're going to take that systolic number, that top number, and use that as your limb occlusion pressure. So to calculate that, you can either do it with a calculator or you can go here to fitcuffs.com. They have this web app up here that you're going to get, the training app. The first time you sign in, it's going to have you create a profile and input all of your information. But then once you're done with that, you're going to hit your limb occlusion pressure, which I've already put in. It will come up with something down here. Focus. It'll come up with a little notification down there. Let me see if I can change. Let's see if I can change what the limb occlusion pressure is. Okay, so I can change what I had put in previously by hitting that button there and scrolling down to the upper body limb occlusion pressure. So it was a 165. Hit OK. Now I'm going to hit the limb occlusion pressure. You can see the upper body there is highlighted, so that's the one that we're going to do. And this is how you're going to calculate what to set your cuffs at. So this is 60% of the limb occlusion pressure. In my case, it said 165, so that's 60%. I'm going to set mine for 50%. So I'm going to set my cuffs using this gauge here. I'm going to set it at 85 to do my workouts. So that's how you do that. You can do it with a calculator as well, but the app is free through their website. It works great, nice and easy to use. So I would, again, just don't panic when it comes up higher than it should. It doesn't mean that you're about to have some sort of a stroke or some sort of cardiovascular problems. It just means that you're using a small cuff on a bigger arm, and it's not measuring exactly what your blood pressure, your specific blood pressure is. It's also not designed to be a blood pressure cuff. It's designed to be an occlusion cuff, so the bladder inside and what it's sensing will be a little bit different. So don't panic, but go ahead and use that number to as your limb occlusion pressure to figure out what to set your cuffs at. You can see it takes about 10 seconds, super easy to do, even with one person. I'm a big fan of this little Bluetooth device to help you measure. All right, so once you know your LOP, it's time to actually set the pressure. Let me get this out of the way before we talk about anything else. Do not buy those ridiculous elastic bands that you see plastered all over Amazon. If you do a quick search for blood flow resistance on Amazon, you will see these little tourniquets that come up that probably work awesome as a field tourniquet if they're bleeding out, but will not get you what you need with when you want blood flow resistance training. We already talked about the reason why they're dangerous. If you tie them too tight, you can damage your nerves. Don't risk anything by going cheap. It's better to not use any BFR than to use something that you cannot accurately control. All right, I think I made my point on that. So once you found it, now you're going to use your gauge to set your cuffs to about 40 to 80% of your limb occlusion pressure. Fitcuffs on their website actually has a section that tells you if you're doing a laying down exercise to set it to this percentage of your LOP, all of that. You can check out their website for that. As far as the literature goes, that's fairly accurate with it. Mostly, I'm choosing to just go 50% of my limb occlusion pressure. That seems to be where most of the studies fall as far as the safety and the efficacy. There is some variability in the research that I was looking at on what you should actually set that to. You will be safe if you do 50% and you never go over 80% of your limb occlusion pressure. Yeah, that's it. So this is an extremely accurate and easy way to control the pressure. Here's how you use it. All you do is you're just going to plug this in. We're going to talk about these couplers here when I get to the durability because they're awesome. You're just going to plug it in just like this. You're going to put this around your arm. You're going to tighten this down so it's going to tighten towards you, and then you're going to pump. You're going to see that starting to inflate. It's not on my arm, obviously, so it's not going to inflate all the way, and I'm not going to because I don't want to damage that bladder. But that's all there is to it. When you want to release the pressure, all you do is open that up, and you can see the pressure just drops right out. So very easy to use, very easy to set that pressure to exactly what you want. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about comfort. Let me start this section by saying BFR workouts are not comfortable. The idea of teaching your muscles to function in a hypoxic environment, it's something they're not used to, something they're not designed to like. It will be triggering your brain to say, this is uncomfortable, this hurts, we need to stop it. So you don't want to compound just the inherent discomfort of BFR training with poorly designed cuffs. So that's what I really liked about Fitcuffs is it seems like they pay really great attention to the details. You guys know from my reviews that I love the details. So you can see one of the things that I like about this is if you look right here, there's this little overhang behind where the ring is. Let me put this on how it's going to sit. Because what this overhang is going to do is it's going to help to prevent pinching. So when you put it on, this thing lays flat rather than allowing any skin to get pinched behind the ring and the band. So it's, again, the small details that make a very big difference. Also, size does matter here, guys. The width of the bands makes a huge difference on how comfortable it is to wear. If it's too wide, you can't get good occlusion, and it makes it really difficult to do any exercises. When I actually started kind of down the path of experimenting with BFR, I used my blood pressure cuff to try to see how I liked it. And one of the things that I noticed is that when I would try to do exercises, because it was too wide, I couldn't get like a good bicep curl, for example, because the band would pinch as I was trying to contract my muscles. So it worked okay, but not really good, not really functional. On the other hand, if the band is too narrow, you're going to end up with a lot of pressure in one spot, which is going to create a lot of discomfort or damage. Fitcuffs is about 2.5 inches wide, and that seems to fall kind of in the sweet spot for most people. Another factor for comfort is the material used. On this one, they used a relatively soft material, but it's also pliable. It's flexible. Some of the companies that I looked at actually put an internal stiffener in there to try to make it easier to inflate. but that makes it really hard to actually use from a functional standpoint. So this holds the pressure great, but allows for flexibility. So all in all, as far as the design of this, it's very comfortable. Just putting it on is comfortable, but again, you're going to feel some discomfort, especially when you first get started with BFR training. All right, so the next section I want to talk about is durability. So initially, when I was looking at BFRs, I actually even put another brand in the cart ready to buy. It was called, what was it? Elite Cuffs. I was going to buy them because they were like $150 less. Then I started to actually crunch the numbers, and I found that it really wasn't that good of a deal. The reason why is that I would have to add another $100 plus to buy a Doppler, because it didn't come with any way to assess the limb occlusion pressure. And then on top of that, I would have to buy a case to hold everything so that it doesn't get damaged and so that I can actually take it with me when I'm traveling. But the real kicker for me is that the fittings were plastic. Fitcuffs is actually the only brand that I saw. I'm sure there's other out there. I can't think of any off the top of my head that have the metal couplers right here. I use the plastic couplers every day at work with my blood pressure cuffs, but that's because they're designed to be disposable. So you're going to actually be inflating and deflating these cuffs multiple times per workout, multiple times per week. So you really don't want to skimp out when it comes to these connections. You don't want to spend a few $100 on something that's not going to last, especially when the price difference, once I added in the difference between the Elite Cuffs and this one, and all the stuff, the extra stuff I'd have to buy, the price difference was like 50 or $70, like not enough to make me want to go with a cheaper made, I should say. It didn't look cheaply made, but a cheaper made. So these have the metal couplers, which is awesome. And the new version, I don't know if they do that on this one. This is version 2. I know on version 3, they actually reinforced around this section because this is where there's going to be a lot of stress. They may have done it on this, but I'm not 100% sure. I am 100% sure on any of the ones that they're selling now, the version 3, that you will have reinforcement around that because that's the area that's going to be subject to the most frequent stress. But even without that addition, like these are really made very, very well. They have high quality stitching. They have the really cool, awesome waterproof materials. What else? Oh, they have this metal adjustment ring. So this ring itself is like a nice quality metal. It's not a plastic ring that's going to snap on you or degrade over time, which I liked. And you add to that the fact that this full set comes with cases for everything individually and the hard case here. I have no doubt that this thing is built to last, and I'm going to have this for years to come. So that being said, let's move on to the last section, which is versatility. All right, so one of the things that was really important to me was the ability to use this on multiple people. I wanted to be able to use it for myself, for my wife, who is a lot different size than I am. We'll just leave it at that. I'm quite a bit larger than my little wife. And I wanted also to be able to use it for friends who were interested in BFR but didn't want to commit without actually trying it. That's even more important if you're wanting to use this in a professional setting like a gym or a rehab facility. The way that this is designed, the placement of the Velcro and the fact that the other side of the Velcro actually extends all the way around the cuff, means that this can be used on 99% of the arms and legs out there. So it also means that as you gain muscle, you won't outgrow your bands. If you're looking at a brand that has a small and a large set, if you start with the small, you may have to eventually buy the large. Another factor that improves the versatility of the bands is that they're waterproof. So yes, it makes it so that it doesn't absorb sweat and get nasty. And it also makes it so that you can wipe it out in between uses. But technically you could swim in these things. I don't know if that's recommended, but I know that you can. Full disclosure though, I'm not a swimmer, so I haven't really looked into the benefits of BFR related to swimming. So if you're interested in swimming, and using BFR to help supplement that training, you're going to have to do some of your own research on that, because I just haven't looked into that. So I don't want to make any promises or statements that I can't back up. So overall, the design of these makes them really some of the most versatile cuffs on the market. All right, so all in all, guys, I'm extremely pleased with the design and construction of these bands. They're really well made with attention paid to every detail. They have the ability to accurately assess and set your pressures, which we talked about multiple times as being absolutely vital to this. They hold in place when you're working out. They're as comfortable as can be to use in actual workouts. And with literally hundreds of papers written on the benefits of BFR, the science is there, guys. So if you're new to BFR, check out the links below to listen to Dr. Novo. When you're ready to buy, do yourself a favor. Don't waste your time looking at the other brands like I did. Pick yourself up a set of these Fitcuffs and you will not be disappointed.